We're going to first talk about reporting in the accounts module. Remember, accounts are the companies that I work with, where contacts are the people at those companies. So if I'm in accounts, and let's say I just want to do an account report, I just want to get a list of all my accounts. Well, once I click List All and I make sure I have all my accounts loaded there, I can just right-click, select all, right-click, and Report. Now you're going to have a couple reports built in by default. You can see here I have a few more probably that you have right out of the box, and that's just because I've customized a couple of these, right? So you can see an account report by hobby. That's a custom field report we've done, and then a couple of these other ones should be similar. But let's say account report by owner. Click OK, and this is going to generate an Excel report for us. And that Excel report is going to be broken down, break down each account by the respective owner. So if we look here, we can see Administrator X owns these accounts, Bob owns these accounts, Jacqueline, Randy, Steve, and so on. So all the accounts are broken down by the owner. We'll go ahead and close that out here. Now also, when I'm looking at that list action, remember list action is right-clicking once you have a list selected. You can see I can also export to Excel. So this is handy just for a bulk export if you ever need to do this. You can choose which fields you'd like to send over. I'm just going to grab a few here and then click OK. And that's going to put it into an Excel file. So that's just kind of like a data dump where you can just send a bunch of information over from Claritysoft to Excel. Now if we go to Contacts, we can do a contact report there. Right-click, select all, right-click, and Reports. You can see we can also run that Excel export if we want. If I click on Report, I've got a few reports here. And you can see one of these sticks out a little bit with a Claritysoft icon, and that's because you can choose a picture for these reports as well. That's something we'll talk about when we get to customization. But just for demonstrative purposes, we'll just run a contact summary. Click OK. And that's going to run it over to Excel. It just may take a second to load here. So within each module, you can do all different kinds of reports, right? We can do contact reports like we just saw here. Within each reporting, these are broken down by state or just a general contact report and so on. There we go. That's a little bit better. So now you can see here we just have a bulk contact report. List the company, account, status, and so on. All right. We'll close out of that guy there. We can head on to opportunities. Now opportunities is where you would plan your pipeline report to see, maybe I want to see all the opportunities that I have in the pipeline for this month. Opportunities is where you'd want to do that. So here you could change to all opportunities. Now this is going to show me all of the opportunities I have in the entire system. I could also break it down a little bit though. Maybe I want to see all of my my won opportunities. Or maybe I want to see all the opportunities where the sales stage is demo, right? And from this list, right-click, select all, right-click, and let's look at some opportunity reports. Here you can see a pipeline by lead source, pipeline by product, by rep, and then I've got a couple other here that we've been toying around with. These were by sales stage. Since this all will have the sales stage of demo, why don't we look at a pipeline by rep report? There we are. This is a pipeline of all the opportunities for each rep. Now, some of the things you might consider is that when you're running these reports, you might want to apply a filter. So let's apply a filter here. That's up here at the top. And let's say we're gonna find the opportunities with the close date sometime in 2015. So let's say, I believe it's greater than or equal to 1/1/15. So this will include any opportunities with a close date after or on January 1st, 2015. You know, and you can also choose between or before. All these Boolean, they call this Boolean logic. So maybe you want to choose between, right? I could choose to see all of the opportunities between the 1st and the 30th of January. So this would be all my January opportunities. Right-click Select All, right-click Report. Let's take a look at that rep report again. And you can see it's a little condensed. There's a few, less items here, and a little bit more relatable, right? A little bit more functional. I'm stumbling on the right word I want to say for this. It gives you a better picture, right? Because we're just looking at January now, where previously we were looking at January until today or after even. So using a filter can kind of help narrow down and refine, maybe that's the right word I was looking for. You can really refine what kind of opportunities and reports you're running. Now, if we go to quotations, any of you that have experimented with quotation reports, they're going to be a little bit different, right? It's not going to be that same format that we saw before. So let's look at this quotation here for some widgets. If I right-click on that and go to a quotation report, you see that's an option that we didn't have previously. I can still run a report. That's just a basic quote report or quotations by rep, but if I do a quotation report, this is going to pull up the quotation reporting screen here. And some of you might have caught some of our other training sessions on the quotation report writer. If not, they're available on our Vimeo site as recordings. But you can take one of these examples here. Once you fill in all the information here at the top, choose a report, and then we're just going to go over here to click Preview and Print. We're just going to take a look at this report. What these quotation reports do is they basically build out a formal quote that you could send to a customer, listing the products and services, any tax, shipping and handling charges, stuff like that. And there we go. So this is just one of the basic templates that comes preloaded in the system. You can edit these to your specific needs. But you can see in a quotation report, Claritysoft and our address information here at the top left, that came from the My Information screen that we saw at the top of the quotation report writer. All the information here under Submitted By and Submitted To, this is all drawn directly from the account, the quote, the contact information. So this is all being pulled by Claritysoft to generate this report. And of course it lists our line items down here below with a quantity and unit price and extended price and our grand total there at the bottom. Go ahead and close out of that. We're not going to get into customizing these reports today. We have some training videos on that available on our website. But if you click on one of these reports and come down here and click Edit Report, you can start playing around with those reports. I always recommend that once you do edit a report, that you save it with a new name. That way, just in case something happens, you have a backup. You have the original copy. All right. We can head down to sales and take a look at some of those reports. This is just looking at this month's sales right now, and you can see there's no data, right? This is a fictitious database we use, so we don't add in items all the time. But let's say we want to look at last quarter. Whoops, there we go. Oh, there might not be any data for last quarter. Last year, I know we'll get some data. There we go. So these are all the sales last year. Well, maybe I want to run a sales report on that. I can right-click, select all, right-click, and report. You kind of get you're probably getting the idea by now. Running these reports are fairly simple. It's a fairly similar process in each module. So maybe this is a sales by rep report, and there you go. Breakdown of all our sales for last year by the rep, as well as the total sales at the bottom. Moving right along, we can do an activity report. And these can be pretty useful for if maybe your manager asked you to send in an activity list or an activity report, or, you know, he's asking you what you've been working on all week. Well, you can come into your system, and as long as you've been logging those completed activities and recording those new activities, you can run them an activity report. So let's say we're looking at all activities. So we're going to say all completed and uncompleted activities. But then you can restrict it by a date range, right? So let's say January 14th. All right, so these are all the activities. Oops, I don't know if I've applied that there. All right, so then you can apply that filter to cut down the information you're looking at. Right-click, select all, right-click, and run a report. Choose activity report by type or by owner. In this case, I'm the owner of every single one of these activities. So an activity report by owner wouldn't necessarily make sense, but we could do it by type. Click OK. And this would be a breakdown of all the different types of activities you completed, as well as a little information related to each one, right? You can see who the account contact was, what type of activity, when it was completed, if it was completed. You see all these that don't have a completed date. Well, they're not yet completed. And you can see the owner as well. And on the line of activity reports, let's say I want to see today and future activities. We're not going to restrict it by the date range. Well, then I can right-click, select all, right-click, and report. And this is going to be my to-do list, because these are activities I have not yet completed. Print it out, and there I go. I have a to-do list of all my tasks for today and the future, right? These are the people I need to call, these are the people I need to email, and these are just other generic tasks that I need to complete. Now, there's not really any reporting we do in the calendar or in the dashboards. So we're going to hop down to leads and see what we can do there. We're going to choose this to be all leads. Right-click, select all, right-click, and report. And this can be a lead report by rep, or by source, or by stage, or status. Let's go by status. That way we can see new leads, we can see working leads, converted leads, and so on. All right, there we go. So these are all the leads that we've converted. All the new leads, right? A lot of, and 2 working leads. So there's a bunch of different types of reports we can run. But I want to now talk a little bit about how we customize some of these reports, right? How we can choose to filter by a certain custom field or anything like that. Let's take a look at that. So the first thing you want to do is you want to go to Help, then go to Claritysoft Files. From here, you want to go to the Reports folder, and then you can see each one of these is broken down. So we have a contact activity list, account list, contact list, and so on. Well, let's take a look at maybe a contact report. So we're going to open this up, and you're going to see 3 file types, all with the same name. That's because each report is a combination of these 3 files. There's the picture file, and in most cases that's the little blue C that you see when you run a report. You have a XML file, which is a program file that does some of the formatting, and you have an Excel file, which is really the base of template for this report. So let's take a look at our contact report up here. Look at these 3 files. These 3 files, they kind of need to stay together. We kind of need to keep some consistency. And when I say that, I mean when we edit these files, we need to make sure that we're not changing their names around unless we name them all the same. And I'm sure that sounds kind of confusing. So let me just give you a better way to go about this. What I like to do is I like to take my template files, right? These are the 3 original files. I highlight all 3 of them. Right-click, copy, come down here to the bottom, right-click, and paste. So you're going to see it's going to have the same name except for it has a dash copy on it. Well, when the 3 files are still selected, I can right-click and I can rename all 3 files at the same time. So we're going to call this new training report. Hit enter. Excuse me. And it changes all 3 to the same name. But there's one other little trick you got to look out for. Look at the difference between this new training report and training report.s. If you notice, all the XML files have that .s at the end, and that's important. So we just have to make sure that on the XML file we add the .s at the end. And there we go. Now we've got them copied, we got them pasted over. We can take a look at editing these now. And the first place I like to go when I'm editing this is to the Excel report. So I'm going to double click on New Training Report, and this is the template. You can see here that we have each column with kind of like this header, right? But we have a header here. We also have these values down below. It's a %sign, the name of the column, and a %sign. Well, that's data binding it to those fields, right? So when this says account, it's going to list the account name. Contact %, it's going to list the contact name. Well, that seems like a pretty easy format, right? If we want to manipulate that, couldn't I just right-click, insert a column, maybe we'll call it email here at the top, and then all we have to do is %sign email, %sign. Now spelling is important. You want to make sure you spell the fields exactly how they're spelled in Claritysoft. But once I put that in, I just click Save, and I close out of that file. And let's run that report. So there's a contact report. Go ahead and list all, right-click, select all, right-click, report. And if we go down, we see New Training Report, and click OK. That's going to bring up Excel, and look, email. Now we have the email column, and each one of those email addresses, I know most of them are the same here, and that's just because this database has a lot of the same email addresses, but you can see the functionality there. We just added in a column to this report. And you can do that with pretty much any field in Claritysoft, whether it be a custom field or a hard-coded field. You can do that to pretty much any field. All right. I have a question here, so give me just a second to read it. All right, so Brian had a question. He asked if you can have unlimited columns in the Excel report. He tried to make his own from one of the existing reports and add existing columns, but the additional columns did not show up. So in that case, Brian, I would try inserting a column like we did here instead of just adding them onto the end. Sometimes you can have better luck with that, and that's because you don't have to mess with any of the XML formatting then. So I would recommend you try just inserting a column, so that's right-clicking up here at the top, Insert, and that's going to shift everything to the right. And if you need, you can move them back around and whatever else not. But I believe we did have, it is a little bit more complicated if you just add them on to the end, because then it also messes up with our formatting here at the bottom where it says total contacts. So if you just insert a column and shove everything over, usually works a lot better. Yeah, give it a try. All right, well, there we go. We just customized a report just like that. All we had to do is copy some files, rename them, right? And that's just because we don't want to mess up our originals. And then we just inserted the field just like that. Go ahead and close out of here. Now, let's say we want to do, let's take a look at another report we can customize real quick. So I could right-click and select all these, right-click and reports, and let's do this. This will be fun. So we're going to take this contact report by state, and we're going to modify that to be a different type of report. We're going to be taking this, we're going to do a contact report, but we're going to segment it by status. The status field right here, whether it be customer, prospect, partner, supplier, we're going to create a report that filters on the status. And when we're choosing a filtering mechanism, when I say filtering mechanism, I mean like by state or by rep or something like that. There's just a little bit more we have to do, but it's very simple, I promise. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. We're going to go to Help, and we're going to go to Claritysoft Files. Then we're going to go back to Reports. We're going to go to Contact List, and we're going to take a look at this contact report by state. Right-click, copy those, paste them down here so we have the backups, and we'll rename them. And we're going to rename that contact report by status. Don't forget to add the .s at the end. And let's open up that Excel file. Now here you see the header here has a %, state, %. That's how it's filtering. So we're going to change that. And we're going to change it down here below as well. And we're going to change the header just so it looks good. Once we're happy there, we click Save. But like I said before, there's one more little thing we need to do when we're filtering it by a certain field, and that's this XML file. We're going to right-click that, and we're going to open it. And this is where some people get intimidated because they see this pop up and they see it looks like a bunch of coding. They get kind of hesitant. They're not really sure. But don't worry about it. It's okay. It's very simple. We'll walk you through it. What I want you to look for is right here. Right there. You can see that is how we're filtering this report out by state. Well, we're going to change that to status. Okay? Very simple. We change state to status. And there's one more right down here. Change state to status. All right? That wasn't so hard, was it? We just changed 2 words. We're going to go ahead and save that. Close it out. Close that out. And let's see if we can break it. We're going to select all these contacts. We're going to run a report. And we called that by status. All right. Click OK. All right. And let's take a look at this. You can see here this whole first chunk doesn't have a status. There is no status listed for this whole first chunk. Then we come down further, and these are all the individuals marked as customer. This individual is marked as customer, partner, and prospect. Customer, partner, prospect, and supplier. So you can see it breaks down each status into the contacts that correspond with that status, however they're marked. So just like that, we created a brand new customized report. All right. Well, I would love to get into some more question and answer if anybody has any more questions. We've got a good bit of time here left, so I would love to hear any questions you might have. Looks like I got a couple coming in here. All right, I had a question here from Ed. Is the code area also where we add fields? No. So Ed, if I'm understanding you correctly, you want to, like we did in the first example where we just added in email, that's done by going to Help, Claritysoft Files, Reports. We're going to go back to that contact list. We're going to look at that first example, the new training report. This, when we added a field, we just inserted a column, and then we inserted the header and the name of the column, or the name of the field, I'm sorry. So for this example, we could do hobby. And save it. And now the hobby, that's one of my custom fields in the system, the hobby is going to be listed there. All right. Hopefully that answered your question for you. Let's take a look at another question here. Another question from Brian here asked if the XML code area is where we can change the column sorting on the Excel spreadsheet. Brian, maybe I'm not understanding you there, but from what I understand, you want to change how the columns are laid out. So maybe you want to, let me pull up an example here for you. You want to change column 2 and 3 and switch them around maybe. We're going to go to Reports. Let's open this one up. And if I'm understanding you correctly, you want to maybe rearrange these two. The easiest way to do that is probably just to insert a column there, and you want to click and drag this guy over to that column. Delete that column if needed. All right, so we had a follow-up here. Oh, okay. So Brian asked, instead it'd be sorting column A instead of column B. So like sort alphabetically or by date. So I think some of that can be done in XML coding. It's going to be a little bit more technical unless you have some experience there. Now the other thing you can do is you could just have Excel do that for you. Excel has a tool where you can sort by a certain column. So if I selected a big chunk of data here, I could choose which column to sort this data by. And I don't remember exactly which feature that is in Excel, but I know there's the ability to do that. You can just, in your report that you run, you can just highlight all that information, and then you can choose, I think it's like sort by column B or sort by column C and so on. So you can do it in the XML coding. It's not going to be very approachable for a newcomer, but you can definitely do it within Excel with the tools Excel gives you. All right. Any other questions I have? I'd love to hear them if you have them. Doesn't look like I have them coming in right now, but we'll give you guys a couple minutes to type up those questions if you have them. And just a friendly reminder, maybe I didn't explain something clearly today, or maybe you had a follow-up question as soon as we hung up. You can always feel free to call our support line. Shoot them an email, give them a call. Whatever you need, they're there for you to help. You can email them at support@claritysoft.com, or you can call them. Their phone number is 888-838-7487. So they're there for you. We want to make sure that you guys have all the tools you need to be successful. All right, guys. Well, it doesn't look like I have any more questions, so it looks like everybody got a pretty good understanding of what we're kind of putting out there today. If you do have follow-up questions, don't hesitate to reach out to support. They're a great group of people. And I think that's going to conclude our Monday training, guys. Thank you all so much for joining us today. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. And if you're in somewhere like Columbus, Ohio, where we are right now, it's raining out and nasty. Well, I hope you all get some good weather coming your way soon. Thank you, guys. Have a wonderful day.